Welcome to Distilled, where we bring you insights, intelligence, and innovation from distillery. And today, we're exciting. We're distilling even B2B Marketing Metrics. Distilled is brought to you by International Creative Practice Distillery. I'm Steve Ween, CEO of Distillery, and thank you for joining us today, whether you're on YouTube or LinkedIn Live or on Twitter. I'm really excited today to be joined by Sara Aird-Marsh. Sara is a C-suite business leader. She's got over 25 years of marketing expertise. She's had over 6 years at tech giants such as Google and eBay before she transitioned into Series A and B startups. She's a true go-to-market leader with a proven track record delivering international growth across revenue streams, covering sales, marketing, product, and customer success in all sorts of verticals. And I think that's one of the reasons her such varied experience. It's one of the reasons I'm so excited to be having this conversation with her. She's also won a multitude of awards. So long, I'm not going to go into them all, but make sure you connect with Sara on LinkedIn. Now, full disclosure, Sara and I have worked together before. She's been our client at Distillery a few times, so I'd better be on my best behavior. In our last live stream, AI Distilled, we very much focused on AI. I was joined by Chris Guest, and we went pretty deep. And I don't think any meaningful discussion in today's landscape can escape discussing AI. But today, we're going to lean into Sara's vast experience working across a broad spectrum of brands and organizations. And I want to dive into some of the challenges facing B2B marketers that Sara's seeing. I want to talk about some of the approaches to solving those challenges. I want to have a look at the role of AI and also have a look at, let's look at the future and get Sara's take on what's next in B2B marketing. This is a topic that's very close to our hearts at Distillery. Indeed, we live it day in, day out, because at Distillery, creativity is made to measure. B2B is a truly unique beast with so many different factors at play. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to use the chat feature. We'll do our best to get to your questions either during the live stream or afterwards. So without further ado, Sara, a big welcome to you. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great, thank you. I know you've got a cold, so I'll try and talk and save your voice.
Thank you. Amazing. Thanks again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. As I mentioned in the setup, Distillery work on a broad spectrum of B2B marketing efforts. Measurement is at the center of what we do. I want to kick off by asking you, really, from your point of view, what makes B2B marketing unique versus other types of marketing disciplines?
I think B2B marketing is the hardest discipline. I have worked across all the other disciplines, so I actually can say that. I think the difference is probably something in the psychology of purchase. When you're purchasing personally, you get that dopamine hit. It's quite exciting. You do all the research, don't get me wrong, and a brand has to appeal to you and everything, but it's a much more personal decision, and there's very low risk, really. The worst thing that's going to happen, I'm not going to like it when I get it. I'm not going to like the taste, or I'm going to send it back. So from a business perspective, you've got your whole professional reputation on the line. You're in a business as an expert. You are doing a review of all of the options. You're spending somebody else's money. It tends to be quite a high entry point spend. It tends to be a longer term commitment. It tends to be quite resource intensive. It tends to be cross collaborative. There are so many different factors that are involved at the person that's actually making the final decision. And that horrible feeling when you buy something from Amazon, like ching, even if it's just some bin bags, you're happy they're coming. You do a business deal and you sign a contract and you just have that stomach flip moment where you're just for a nanosecond thinking, am I doing the right thing? I don't know. And then from a marketing perspective, to reassure that person all the way down the line, but also to anticipate all the stakeholders that might come out, that they might be checking out your website or seeing you on LinkedIn or seeing something else, and to satisfy every single one of them and the objections they might be having, both to them directly, but then also assisting the person that's making the purchase decision, that recommendation. It's a minefield. It's a big old job.
So actually, I find quite interesting in all of that, we're talking about B2B marketing, business to business marketing, but you haven't really talked about businesses in that anecdote. We're talking about humans, and I think that whole piece. This is human to human marketing. All marketing should be targeted towards humans rather than looking at businesses. That sort of mindset of, well, this can be boring, this doesn't need to be emotional, this doesn't need to entertain, and I think that's sort of really at the heart of what you're talking about.
Absolutely, and that's everything you said. That's all wrong. It can't be boring. It does need to be engaging. You need to speak to people like they are people. You need to use their language. Business people don't go home and talk in jargon and business terminology. They go home and they tell people what they do in their own language. That's how we should be speaking to them. So yeah, it's a real skill to kind of unpick and debunk all this business talk into something that resonates and matters to everybody across the board.
Couldn't agree more. So we've built this session, Sarah, as B2B Marketing Metrics Distilled. I'd like to know from your point of view what the biggest challenge is.
I think the biggest challenge is there are so many things that we can measure, and we do, because we marketeers, we love data, we love reporting, we love to justify our worth, but we are measuring and reporting back on so many things. It's actually having a negative impact, and it's starting to, well, I don't think it's started to, I think it has devalued marketing metrics to an extent. People think we do colouring, but we don't do data, because we talk about followers and engagement rates, but we don't talk about sales and revenue. So there's that kind of massive disconnect between marketing KPIs and business outcomes. We did some research at my previous role. We spoke to over 500 marketing directors globally, and 46% of them were unable to link market performance data across the full marketing funnel. So that's a real kind of gap, which leads to a lack of confidence, I think. And 43% had a disconnect between leads generated and the user journey post-lead acquisition. So again, this marketing delivers X, but cannot justify the rest of the or influence the rest of the customer journey. And then that kind of is supported by 37% of people were saying that there's a lack of collaboration or alignment between different business units and marketing. So following that flow, it's almost impossible. But you add those findings, 500 people in the bigger scheme of things isn't great. It isn't a great number. But the DMA in the summer released some research saying that we are currently, as an industry, using over 189 different measurement methods. And a lot of those do focus more on the delivery marketing metrics rather than actual business and brand outcomes. So I think the biggest challenge is it's time that we got serious and showed the business that marketing means business.
So only 189 measurement methods then. So you've worked with all sorts of organizations. Are these challenges consistent, Sarah?
Yes, they are. I think ultimately, when you were saying that businesses come down to people, marketing come down to budgets and outcomes, and budgets and outcomes roll up to the CFO. So until marketing and the CFO are talking the same language, we're always going to have this problem. But whether you're in an agency that's selling to a brand, the brand manager or the head of or the CMO has to go to the CFO and demonstrate what's been delivered. And if you're an individual marketing contributor, you still need to go and ask for that budget and justify why you need it and demonstrate that you're thinking about outcomes, which also it reflects across the rest of the business. I've worked with sales teams who have had bottomless pockets. I don't know what it's called, but they can spend any money. Like, yay, brilliant! Let's go to the Ivy, 10 of us, whoop! But there's been no accountability of that spend. And as long as and then they're like, well, marketing doesn't have any. So it's like, right, okay, we're not the parents, we're not the grown-ups, but we kind of are. We need to demonstrate that marketing does. We do think that way, and so should every other business unit. So I think it's a big responsibility.
Okay, so the challenges are consistent. Sales is at the Ivy, but I want to go a little bit deeper. What's really the problem here?
I think there is this inconsistency of the industry measurement. They have so many different metrics, and no one can agree on not one. I mean, they all have merit, right? But there's too many. And marketeers don't feel confident that they have the data to connect all the dots to get from marketing to the business outcome. And that lack of confidence means they fall back on the multiple measurements. We're almost blinding people with science, but to the extent that people are seeing right through it and saying, yeah, but what are you actually saying? Just tell me the bottom line. So I think that's a real issue. I mean, even when we do have actually good data to share, people they're not finding it credible because we're not putting it in the right context and the right narrative. So I mean, I was at a big multinational company, and one of the marketeers there would report on how much better the ROI was from one campaign to the next. What they weren't reporting on was the fact that the last campaign had very, very, very negative ROI, and then it was getting incrementally better from there. And it's kind of like, okay, there needs to be some kind of reboot. We need to have a stop. There needs to be accountability. Somebody needs to draw a line in the sand, say, this isn't working, I'm stopping it entirely. And we would get so much more respect from that than trying to spin data. And I think too many people do that. And I think agencies and brands and clients are equally responsible for doing that.
Mm-hmm. I think for us as a creative practice, we're always looking at how, what are the key metrics that we're measuring, but also how we're telling that story. And I think one of the pieces, the key things here is around the maturity of the discipline, where you've got disciplines like accounting that have really clear standards. So that maturity of reporting. But the irony in all of this is marketeers, as we were discussing before, Sarah, are storytellers at heart. But how are they, where's that storytelling when the reporting and the metrics and campaign wrap-ups are coming to life?
Yeah, I think that the disconnect there is we get so into the nitty-gritty of everything, we don't take a step back. So everybody in a business is pulling in the same, should be pulling in the same direction. A business says, I want to grow, we are going to grow 30% year on year during 2024. So marketing says, and this is how we're going to help you. We are going to reach new customers in new markets. We are going to speak to 80% of the Chinese market for accounting software. We are going to improve our lead to conversion MQL rate by 20%. We're going to do, this is how we are helping the business get to there. And then as soon as you put that context in, you start to have an aha moment. And that's where we need to take a step back and reframe the narrative to demonstrate that we are delivering for business, rather than looking like we're in our own little marketing silo that's just trying to incrementally do marketing better and better and better without the holistic view of the whole business.
Mm-hmm. With all of your crayons, as you mentioned before. We were talking earlier about taking a top-down view rather than a bottom-up. Do you want to dive in there a little?
Yeah, so that was going back to the marketing metrics and the business metrics. So from a marketing and the same goal, because we're all trying to grow the business. As marketing, we also need to keep our teams motivated and happy, and we need to have our own quality scoring in there as well. And that's where we're making mistakes with the business. We're telling them about engagements, about click-throughs, about open rates, about followers, all this kind of stuff. It's really good for us for the day-to-day to know that we are making an impact, we are making a difference. For the question to the business is, but really, what is that difference? To marketers, it's like, brilliant, we are engaging, we are relevant, we're doing the right thing, and we're doing better and better. Business doesn't care. The business wants to know, but how are you helping? And that goes back to saying, right, okay, what are the key objectives of the business? It's growth, it's sales, it's product development, and where in each of those pillars is marketing actually going to contribute? So what are you going to do? What's it going to deliver? And what's that going to look like for the final outcome? So we need to be, when we're talking to the business, we should be talking top down. When we're talking to the team, we should have a top down summary, but we can be looking bottom up.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I couldn't agree more. And I think, Sarah, we're distilling B2B marketing metrics, and we're touching on this already, but I want to go a little bit deeper into the approaches to solving some of these challenges that we've talked about.
Okay, well, I mean, I've spoken about these 189 and counting methods. We don't need to we're not going to kill them overnight, and we don't need to. The thinking is there, and the thinking is there for a reason. It's not, I've made it sound like it's all very made up. It's not very made up. There is rationale behind every single thing that we report on, and the outcomes that we're having. But what we can do is start to connect the marketing metrics to our actual business outcomes. But while we do that, we do need to own the narrative. I mean, I've had conversations with salespeople who've said to me, right, Smash, that's my work nickname, Smash, I need X million sales at the end of the year, which means four closed ones. So what does that, if I work backwards at this conversion rate and this conversion rate and this conversion rate, it means I need 1 billion, I need to reach 1 billion people. Like, well, this is a salesperson, there aren't 1 billion people in your target audience. That's not how marketing works. It's not about throwing things out to as many people as possible and hoping that something settles. It's about really understanding what, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, so I'll just go over that, but kind of explaining it to the sales team that way. But it's that lack of understanding that there are so many external factors that come into things that affect the success of a marketing campaign. But then equally, the sales guy is still frustrated. So if you flip that over, there is a way, say, right, okay, it doesn't work like that, dude. But what we could do is say, you need 4 deals. You might get one of those through your own personal network. You might get one of those through events and one-to-one events, which marketing obviously contributes to. We'll contribute to 2 of those from a demand generation perspective. And how we're going to do that is we're going to spend this much money. We're going to do ABM. We're going to do content. We're going to join the loop everywhere. We're going to have you on every single podcast we can come up with. And with a mixture of all of this activity, that is how we're going to help you. We're going to help you close those sales. So that's what we're going to do. But we're not going to commit to it. That's our target, because you too have targets. You're not saying I'm going to make £3 million worth of sales. You are aiming for that. So we will aim for that. And then at the end of the year, let's see where we are. Let's see what worked, and we can dial that up, and what didn't work, and we can dial that down. But we need to stop being reluctant to do it and start being bold and drawing a line in the sand, sticking a flag in the dirt or whatever the expression is, and saying, right, this is what we're going to do. And then another, I mean, I think something that has worked well for me repeatedly is looking at the success rates. So to MQL to SQL, SQL to closed won. That's a great way of monitoring the quality of leads that are coming through and the messaging that you're giving them. So the better the messaging, the better lead comes through. The better lead comes through, the earlier they're qualified. When they're qualified, they become accepted by sales, and so on and so on. So they're more likely to convert at the very end. Of course, there's many, many, many other factors in there, but that quality metric does go across the funnel. So that's always a nice, easy win-ish to monitor. And again, if you don't have the data, just start somewhere. Just got to start. And everyone, when they start realizing that marketing is meaning business, everyone is so receptive. It's brilliant.
And also, the key, ingredient here is that you have a sales team that can actually sell.
Yes, but that's like the sales team saying we need a marketing team that do their job. So I think the word's in team and business. If a sales team is struggling to sell, then that is a marketing concern too. We need to make sure that they've got the tools they need, that we are giving them the information they need, the messaging they need, the leads they need. So they can't blame it all on us, but we can help them to do their job too. And we should be collaborating, working together. I think sales and marketing are siloed in too many organizations, and that just isn't good for success.
Mm-hmm. I think this leads nicely into our the next point. I think in our discussion, Sarah, in our preparation for this discussion, we talked about the pod approach and reporting against business outcomes. Can you talk a little bit more about your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if all of our listeners will know what a pod approach is. So just to forgive me if I'm teaching you to suck eggs. The pod approach is when a business doesn't split. It will divide. It creates cross-collaborative teams. That's what it does. It creates cross-collaborative teams that go after different target audiences. I'm really dumbing it down, but and in that cross-collaborative team, you'll have a salesperson. Well, you might have multiple, but for example, there will be representation from sales, business development, marketing, compliance if it's relevant, customer success, legal, and each team has their own targets, and they work together as a team. So it's like a small business in a business. They work together as a team to agree how they're going to achieve those targets. And it means the marketeer, the sales dev or business dev people, and the salesperson work so closely together. And that's where I've seen that just explode barriers. People suddenly understand, they're like, right, okay, and try and separate a salesperson from their marketing manager once they've worked like that. They don't want to work with anybody else. That's somebody called Natalie. Natalie, if you're listening, hello. Somebody called Natalie, who I worked with at Currency Cloud. She was fierce at what she did, and her sales team absolutely loved her because she knew exactly what she was doing. They had ultimate trust in her. Yeah, it just works really well. So pod marketing, giving people the responsibility and the accountability and empowering them within the business works superbly.
Amazing. So, Sarah, I want to ask you, where does brand and performance sit across what we've talked about? We've got these 180, 190 more and more metrics. Where, from your point of view, is brand and performance separate?
When you meet people, they will say, "What kind of marketer are you? Are you a brand or are you performance?" And I think over the last 15 years, growth hacking, performance marketing, it's all become. It kind of took over the world, and a lot of the data and metrics have come from all of that. And performance and growth hackers are very good at spouting loads of numbers and statistics, and it's all very meaningful. I didn't mean spouting, but they're very good at. They really know their stuff. But at the end of and people start to forget a bit about brand. But the fact is, from my perspective, brand and performance cannot be separated. You can't have marketing or performance marketing if you don't have a brand. And you can't have a brand if you can't evaluate and it's not performing. I mean, you can, but it's not going to last very long, right? So, and I think as things go on, it's been notoriously difficult to measure brand impact. Really costly, hundreds of thousands of pounds, really clunky, really time consuming, and some of the brand reports I've seen have been particularly meaningless. I'm not going to mention any names, but now with AI. There's some Google have a brand uplift study. There's a new product called that Cint have just released. So it's become much easier to look at that brand uplift and what that means to the business. But for me, yeah, brand and performance, they go hand in hand. You can't separate the two.
I mean, I think I've opened a can of worms that we could talk on for hours. So, but we've only got sort of 5 or 10 minutes left. And I can't believe we've gone for 25 minutes without really getting into AI. I wanna just throw it out there, Sarah. Let's dive into AI and have a discussion. If you could talk more about B2B marketing metrics, AI, the challenges that we're facing as an industry.
I love AI. Massive AI advocate. Early adopter, I think, as most marketeers are anyway. Just really super curious about how it works. Obviously you need to find your problem and use AI to solve that. AI is also driving me insane. It's a blessing and a curse. The curse is everybody already thinks they're a marketeer, everybody, oh, I could do that. Oh, it's really easy. Oh, well, why don't you just have an event? Oh, just buy a few beers. Oh, just send a few emails. It's like, it's not like that. Marketing is a lot more scientific. But, you have to put together a whole robust strategy that who you're talking to and how and why and where and when and everything. But with AI, it makes it even easier for all these marketers. You've got Mid-Journey. Suddenly, everyone's a creative. You've got ChatGPT. You can do a brand proposition and draft a bunch of copy. It's crazy. It's just, everyone thinks they're doing marketing, but it's more than that. But it just brings us a full circle until marketing starts to gain more credibility, so that we are reporting, we're demonstrating business outcomes. Everyone's going to think they're a marketeer until one day they realize that actually it's not just about crayons and Mid-Journey. It's about everything else that we know and that we do every day that we're just not telling people enough about it. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant.
No, I think, at the heart of it, it's about the fact that we need specialists to solve special problems. Marketing is so much around combining, art and science, driving back to business outcomes, and to really push businesses forward. And we've only got a few minutes left, Sarah, but I really want to sort of put our heads up and have a look to the future and get your take on what you think is next.
So, I think you touched on that on the last Distilled, actually. But so AI is going to be doing a lot of automating for decisions for us as a marketing perspective, generating data-driven insights. It's going to help us inform decisions for ad campaigns. It's going to really let us see in real time what campaigns are delivering, which is amazing and should make our lives a lot easier. And everything I've just talked about, hopefully somebody will come up with a way to connect all of the dots. But I think from a content marketing perspective, there's going to be quite a shift. You talked about, if nobody's heard it, if anybody's not heard it, they should listen to your last one of these with Chris Guest, where he talks about search to answerable engines to agentic web. And for people that weren't listening, that just means that people were doing keyword searches. Now they're using answer engines like ChatGPT. So it's going from lexical search, so keyword searching content, to contextual search, which is a lot more about questions, answers, context. So I'd type in, hi ChatGPT, I wouldn't type that in. Hello, please tell me the best 3 competitors to HubSpot. And ChatGPT will give me the top 3 competitors. It'll annotate it with links through to those sites. It's curating my answer to me rather than just a list of results that I need to trawl through. And in that curation, it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting that a lot of our metrics are measuring. So site visits and clicks and the user journey. And so I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to start looking at zero-click attribution, because when you've got a robot talking to a machine talking to a machine, robot sounds a bit personified, a machine talking to a machine, there's all this stuff going on in the background. They're not clicking through to make a purchase. There's no path to purchase. They are just finding the information out and then curating it to the inquirer. So that brand's going to be more important, and then you've got the zero-click attribution. But then as you go further forward into the agentic web, which is where instead of asking the answer engine and it reactively responding, you'll have an answer engine who'll be your personal assistant. So Alexa, you don't ask Alexa anymore. Alexa says, "Hi Sarah, by the way, your HubSpot subscriptions running out. So I've put together this cost comparison and pros and cons for the top 3 competitors, and actually Zoom info is looking a lot better. Do you want to use them?" And then I'm just making a decision. I probably, as a humans aren't going to just answer to the machine and do what they recommend. So brand's going to come into it because I'm going to choose the one that I have the best feeling about and that I've heard the best things about from other humans. But it is going to impact how we are measuring marketing performance and how we are actually marketing to users. So I think that's going to be the biggest shift.
Mm-hmm. I mean, full disclaimer, we are not sponsored by HubSpot. We're not sponsored by Zoom Info. And we talked a lot about the agentic web in our previous Distilled session. We'll link to it in the description below. And I think we could talk about the agentic web. We could talk about AI. We could talk about these 189 metrics in detail. But this is such a big topic, and we're at time, Sarah. I want to say a massive thank you, Sarah, for sharing all of your thoughts, all of your wisdom, thank you everyone for joining us on LinkedIn Live and YouTube. We've had an explosion on our YouTube channel, so this content must be doing something right. So I'll drop the key links in the chat below this video, but also in the comments if you're watching the re-record. Make sure you go and connect with Sara on LinkedIn. She's very active on LinkedIn and shares some real gems. I'm Steve Ween. I'm the CEO of Distillery. You can find us at wearedistillery.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. We're an AI-enabled creative practice. We work with all sorts of leading organizations. And if you have any further thoughts, any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks again, Sara. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.